Hello there. Welcome to our first episode into Rhino. This is actually a second version of the intro episode, just trying to tighten things up. So, this is going to assume that you have Rhinoceros 3D6 or Rhino for short for Mac installed on your computer. If you need help with the installation, please seek help for that. We have our file right here ready to go. Real quick, just some background here. Rhino is made by McNeil and Associates based out of Washington State. And it is a design tool, computer aided design tool that often architects, industrial designers, those sorts of disciplines are more likely to use. Engineers may use this, it really depends on the company, but it's a very, very powerful tool that you can learn pretty quickly. It can get quite overwhelming because it can do a lot, so I'm going to try to help focus you in this video and in the subsequent videos on just the very basics, and then you can figure out um, how deep to dive into. There is a URL right here, as you can see. You can find on their website that has a very nice encyclopedia and user manual of how to use things. For instance, you can look up keyboard shortcuts. I do not recommend just going through sequentially. I hope that in these first three videos, you can get a good sense of the basics, and then depending on what you want to make, you can learn, find tutorials, look online, just try things out and go for there. There are many CAD tools out there. You want to think about what is the right tool for the right situation. What you do through here in Rhino, you can export to all different sorts of machines such as laser cutters, 3D printers, and water jets. So let's get diving into it. Whenever you make a new file, it will ask you for the size, and I like to think in inches. Usually we're going to deal with small objects. So that's what we'll click on. And the first thing that we want to look at is just sort of the layout of things. And let me delete this extra window. No need to save. I guess that brings to mind it is good to save right away just in case there's some glitch that it doesn't allow you to save your work. It will not autosave by default, so just every now and then save. So if we just take a look at the layout here, you have your standard horizontal menu bar. You have various modes here. You have your main viewports, and then you have a left sidebar and a right sidebar. So throughout the video, pause and make sure you can follow along. There is Command 0 will hide the left, and Command Alt 0 will hide the right. These can be customized to whichever one you want to view. You can also adjust as needed. When we are using a tool, there are three main ways to do it. There's the menu bar here. There is the tool palette. You can mouse over and see the name. Or over time, you're just going to learn the commands. So for instance, if we want to create a box, just start typing box. Press that. And this is a good time to just sort of view the viewports. So here in perspective mode, you can see the X, Y, and Z. That corresponds to red, green, and blue. And let's say we move over to the top. Take a look at how the top is Y and X. And what do I mean by that? Okay, it's Y and X. So in other words, we cannot move in the Z. So if you look at the front and the right planes, there's no way we can move in the Z. Now let's alternate. If we're in the front, you can see that there is no way to move in the Y. And then likewise with the right, there is no way to move in the X. Okay, so you can click points and then click and then click. That'll make your box. Alternatively, you can type in values, so 0, 0. And you can continue typing in values or click. And then you'll see on the left-hand side, it'll prompt you for what you need to input to make your shape. Let's see what else. I have got my notes on the side here. You can click to pick that tool, or you can right click and drag, or two-finger click and drag. It'll pop out. These are further options. You can also just click and drag to see the various options. Again, I think over time it's best just to learn the name of the commands that are most useful to you. You can switch between the viewports here, 1 and 4. You can always double click the name and that'll toggle back out. And it just really depends on what you are doing. Let's see, what's next? Mouse gestures. So we will start with perspective. You can do things with the mouse. I'm just going to keep it to the trackpad, and you can explore how to do it on a mouse. So I'm just using 2-finger swipe, and that's the sort of rotate, or I think they call it tumble. And we can also pinch in and squeeze to zoom in and out. And then if we want to pan, all right, it's like a sheet of glass is in front of you, and you're just sort of moving side to side. The orientation of the shape doesn't move. So just normal 2-finger, and then hold the shift key 2-finger. You can also do 2-finger alt, and that'll do zooming. Now, if we go back to our 4 viewports, you can see similarly, just 2-finger, right? You can only move in one direction. So it's as if somebody has stuck a piece of glass in front of you, and there's no way to move in the Z. And then pinch, okay? And then likewise, you can see how it works to top, front, and right. So this is one nice thing about Rhino, that it gives you this option to either sort of see the big picture and zoom in on things as you need, or focus on a particular plane, because you are giving 2-dimensional input through your mouse, but yet you want the object, you're designing an object in 3 dimensions. So it's nice to have those options. Now is a good time to do a couple of zoom commands I like. Command Shift E, zoom to extent, and it's going to do whatever highlighted viewport. So you see what happened there? It sort of zooms in. Let's say you had a lot of different objects and you wanted to just focus on this one object. You could type ZS. All right, you see on the left-hand side, it's highlighted. That'll zoom to selected. Let's also talk about the gumball. All right, gumball is very useful. If the gumball is off, then there is no way to pull up all those useful tools. So if I move this around, right, you're not exactly sure which direction you're moving in. You can also move in your top front right view. And if you've never done any sort of CAD before, I strongly recommend just playing around and seeing how you can change things in your viewports. But with the gumball on, you could also type gumball. With the gumball on, when you click on it, there are a number of sets of handles. So let's focus in on perspective. If you've done Tinkercad, this is sort of similar. Rotate around just so you can get a sense of things. So you see the color axes. All right, you can move it in that particular direction. That way there's no way to move in those other directions. You have rotating. So blue is rotating around that Z-axis. And likewise with the other rotate handles. I'll undo just to get back to here. You can also sort of move only in this case, the red and the blue. So that's the XY axis. And again, it might be hard to tell what you're doing, so feel free to switch back over to here, and you can see which dimension is being constrained. Switching back to perspective, select it. Now this one's a little tricky. These are the handles to either shrink or compress, and notice how it's expanding from the middle. So if you want to just scale in one direction, well, we can talk about that later. If you want to scale all 3 dimensions at once, you can hold the Shift key. And that'll do a proportional scale. All right, let's also talk about, let's switch views real quick here. So we got our box. We can click and drag to move it around. Now it's sort of freely moving wherever we want. But if we have grid snap on, which is function F9, it will only go in increments of that grid. And that could be useful if you know you only want certain dimensions, but you don't want to type things away. You can also go to ortho, and that will only move things in a certain degree. So you see it's sort of locked to 90 degrees. An easy way to just have ortho on as needed is to hold the Shift key. So I'm holding the Shift key right now. I want to point out a couple of things that might be different from your default, and that is the gumball you can change. So I'm going to Preferences, you can go to Rhino, Preferences, or Command Comma, Modeling Aids. This is really useful to adjust the thickness of the color. I wouldn't mess with the colors of the axes because those are standards. And then cursor tooltips I think are pretty useful because as you move it around, it sort of gives you some reference on what you are doing. Okay, let's make a couple of extra boxes. So you could Command C, Command V. Okay, you can also Alt drag, and you'll see this little green plus pop up. You see that? All right, all different sorts of shapes. And so one thing that you want to be able to do is select particular ones. So of course there's select all, Command A. You can also select and then Shift select to select multiple ones. Let's say you only wanted to click the first and the third. And then there is the selection rectangle. So this is very important. If you click and drag from left to right, only things that are completely enclosed by the rectangle will be selected. So if I let go, only that is selected. But if you do right to left, all right, so right now my rectangle only has the middle one. So if I did a left to right, it would only be the middle one. But since I'm doing a right to left, it does all three. So just do this for yourself. It will be a lot easier for you to see and understand. We're almost to the end here of this first episode. One useful tool, analyze length and distance. Of course, you could type in length or distance. So if you're not sure what you input for the sides, you can click on certain curves, and then it'll give you an amount down here, a measurement. And, I think this is a good stopping point. I've covered a lot. This is just an intro. Episode 2 gets you going just in the top view, doing a laser cut name tag. And then episode 3 will get you to some more freeform modeling and making the iconic Rhino rubber ducky. So thanks for listening. Hopefully you have a good sense of how to navigate. We'll see you next time.